Did you enjoy the movie? You didn't see it. You're a great dog. What do you say? Woof. Thanks for joining us today. Say everybody subscribe and like and leave a comment. Hi everybody, welcome to Real Rebel. We are back and we just watched the new Ghostbusters movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Awesome.
2 thumbs up, four thumbs up.
4 thumbs.
Yeah. So what were some of your takeaways from, this is gonna be spoiler free. We're just gonna tell you kind of what our general thoughts were about the movie.
And first of all, I wanted to thank my cousin Kung Fu Larry for allowing us to film this episode in his house as we're babysitting his dog Bandit. But overall, my thoughts were it was a great movie. It definitely had a lot of spirit to it. I think one of my favorite parts of it was the girl Phoebe that was played by McKenna Grace. Mm-hmm. She was fantastic. So we watched a review before we saw the movie that they really highlighted how well she did. So I went in thinking that she was going to do a good job, but she definitely didn't disappoint.
Without giving too much away, the movie is driven by 4 kids. And I actually, it's kind of a risk to do that with a movie like this, but I think that they pulled it off. And like Mr. Real Rebel said, the McKenna Grace actress did a really good job pulling it off and definitely carried this movie.
Yeah, she did an excellent job. And all the kid actors did an excellent job. The acting throughout I thought was very solid. I thought that the story was well done. So I think one of the things that gave it heart was it was written by Jason Reitman, who is Ivan Reitman's son, who did the first 2 Ghostbusters. And from what we heard, that Ivan was very much looking over Jason's shoulder to make sure it was not missing the key ingredients. And I think that was a good thing. I think Jason was appreciative of that, but also at the same time, it really felt like it captured the essence, but at the same time told it through a different point of view. And one of the things I thought was interesting was you brought this up that, that Jason was a kid when the first 2 movies came out. And so it was interesting that he wrote this story and directed it and did it maybe from the perspective of kids because he was a kid when he saw those movies come out. So I thought that was an interesting thing you brought up.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. And he wrote and directed this movie, and I thought he did an exceptional job. And also Paul Rudd is in this movie, and he's a treasure. Okay, he's so great. I've been saying that since his Clueless days, and he's so funny and everything. And so we really enjoyed him.
I'm pretty sure he's the most likable guy in the world right now in particular. And rightfully so. Like, as much as he gets all that publicity of being a good guy, mm-hmm. I don't think very many, myself and many people feel a sense to try to tear him down. I think we're happy having Paul Rudd on that hill.
Yeah.
Of being the most liked guy in the world. So
he comes across as very genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Not to give too much away again, but I had this sense through the whole movie that Harold Ramis was present. There was like a presence there. At least the essence of him was there. And so Harold Ramis played Egon Spengler in the original Ghostbusters movies, and Harold Ramis passed away in 2014, and he was an immensely talented person. He made his beginnings in SCTV, Second City. He wrote and directed Groundhog Day, Animal House, Caddyshack, Stripes, Back to School, and then Ghostbusters. He didn't direct some of those movies, but he wrote all of them and directed some of them. And it felt like this movie was really in honor of him. And I think that they did it really tastefully. And, it could have been botched. This is a really delicate thing to take someone who is no longer with us and, try to pay tribute to them. And I thought that they pulled it off beautifully.
And I think that just goes back to Ivan and Jason Reitman wanting to make sure that this is something that Harold, not to say that you wouldn't have been proud of the 2016 Ghostbusters, but they wanted to make sure, since they're involved in this one, that it would be something that Harold was proud of. And I think he would be. I think he'd be giving that that smirk and smile, and as he did with the Egon character so many times in the first two Ghostbuster movies. And there's obviously, they did this in part for Harold, and there's a moment towards the end of the movie where they just pan up and then they show for Harold. And I just thought that really symbolized the tasteful way that they did this movie, and it was with the spirit of Harold in mind throughout the whole movie, which is really cool because Harold Ramis was quite an interesting guy. So
yeah, it was definitely in honor of him. Ghostbusters it's a masterpiece. Since 1984, there have been numerous attempts to recapture that lightning in a bottle. And I actually really enjoyed the sequel. I saw it in the movie theater when I was a kid. It came out in 1989, and I loved it. And but
that was the first one I saw because of my age. Because I had an older brother, and so we had Ghostbusters 2, and it was back in those days we chose to copy the movies from the rental stores onto VHS tapes, and we would do multiple movies on each tape. And so I think to some degree how much I liked the movie was how much the movie was good, or I had nostalgia about it, but also what other movies were on there. So if there was other good movies, it kind of played off each other. Major League was on that tape, so I always remember, it was Major League and then Ghostbusters 2. So those two went along, and I really liked Major League growing up as a kid. So I did really like the sequel, but I recognized, especially as I got older and could appreciate the original. I mean, that's clearly, just so there's no doubt or misunderstanding, that's clearly the better movie.
Yeah.
And the best movie of all of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just hard to come up with, to be able to surpass something like that was grown so organically, and with the collaboration of these actors and writers that came together to bring that movie out. And
Bill Murray was magical
in that
movie. With some of his lines were just, his timing is impeccable.
It is.
Like, if you just read his lines, you'd be like, that's hysterical. But then when you see him perform it with the context and the timing of it, it just puts it over the top.
I think he ad-libs most of his lines, which is why they're so great. But like you, I also had an older sibling, my sister, and kind of had that advantage that she was a few years older than me. So she introduced me to all of these really, really cool 80s movies. And so since she was into them, I was into them because I kind of followed in her footsteps with that. And so it was, I think she saw the Ghostbusters 2 in the movie theater, just to make sure it would be okay for me to see it. And because I was only 7 when it came out, and and then we ended up seeing it together. So it was really fun.
Here's to older siblings. For all the damage they cause, they do some good, though.
They do good, yeah. So I think that in the original Ghostbusters, the driving heartbeat behind it is the chemistry between Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver. And I've been saying this for a long time, that I think that the movie feels so real, that it seems like these are actual people, and their conversations seem so natural.
Which is kind of like the combo you get with salt and sugar. They don't seem like they should go together, but they do. And the concept of these characters, the story is so unrealistic. And I think that, like you're saying, that the realness of the characters grounds it, that makes it feel not, phony. Yeah.
Going back to Ghostbusters Afterlife, I think they did a good job of bringing these characters to life and having them seem real and not phony. I've got a couple of things about the movie that I thought that the pacing of it was it could have been done a little bit better. I thought that it felt, and maybe I just need to see it again, but I thought that it was a lot of sequences that were kind of just strung together.
I think part of that was that you have multiple characters kind of having their own storyline.
Yeah.
Like the older brother had his storyline that was kind of compartmentalized from the Mackenzie Grace, the Phoebe character, and then she had her own storyline, and so they're kind of happening separate. Whereas in the original, the main characters, they're all they join early and they kind of all stay together. So I think that might have been maybe part of why it felt disjointed a little bit, but not necessarily knock. It still was a great story.
It was, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that it was just because the original movie had Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver, like their interactions kind of drove the whole movie. And I think that that's what makes a good movie, is when it feels like you're in the car for the ride, and it just like it's going to turn this way and then it's going to go this way, and you're going somewhere. And with this one, it sometimes there were lulls in it where I didn't feel like I was driving along, but it was kind of more like being pulled along. I don't really think that it was that detrimental, because I think nowadays in a lot of movies there are not as many lulls in movies because they just want to throw as much action into movies, but then you lose story. Mm-hmm. And so with the lulls that were in it, we actually kind of get to see Phoebe discover new things and, kind of mess around with some equipment in a basement and, kind of figure things out. And it takes that time for us to spend with her as a character discovering new things. And you just don't really see that in movies nowadays. So I actually kind of appreciated the lulls.
Yeah, and speaking of getting in the car and driving with the story, and this is in the trailer, so I'm not giving away, but the scene where they were in the car and she was in Phoebe's character was in the chair shooting at the ghost chompers. That sequence was amazing.
Yeah.
And, to Mrs. Real Rebel's point, they really took the time to develop the Phoebe character in particular. She definitely was, in my opinion, the star of the show. And what they did really well with it is, they made her very, very intelligent, but they also were strategic in how they helped her so she could figure out things that no 12-year-old, no matter how smart they are, would be able to figure out. Mm-hmm. So they're clever with it. So she was smart up to the point where it was really fun and it was enjoyable, but not to the point where you're like, okay, this is ridiculous.
Right.
Or to the point where you're like, I know I'm supposed to like this character, but I'm kind of not liking them right now. Like, I never got that way with Phoebe.
Oh, no.
Because she was just a great character. And then her own sidekick, Podcast,
was
fantastic.
Podcast. He was so funny. Yeah.
And they worked well together, I think.
They did. Yeah, they had a nice contrast. Yeah.
Paul Rudd is amazing.
Paul Rudd was great. Yeah.
The Walmart scene is
No, I'm not
going to give anything away. The Walmart scene is quintessential Paul Rudd. Like they had to have been like, all right, Paul, we're going to give you a little bit of space. Just come up with something that's from within. And then he did what he did, and it was absolutely magical. And it was very subtle. It was not over the top, but it was probably one of the funniest moments in the entire movie.
I think I giggled for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just his little thing that he did.
And I think only Paul Rudd could pull that off and have it be as funny.
So the story was very enjoyable. If you watch this movie, stay through the very end of the credits. This is my sister told me this.
Not the first fake ending with the credits, but just keep staying
stay
all the way, all the way. Like you're saying, okay, I'm not going to sit here and watch these 20,000 people's names from all the special effects. Stay, keep in your seat.
Yeah. Yeah, great movie. Thumbs up. Recommend you see it. Go ahead, watch it. Watch the other Back to the... so yeah, go ahead and watch it. And we have a special guest. Subscribe to Real Rebel. Right? Yeah. We love you.